When Mark and I work on putting together content, no matter what we're doing, whether it's the podcast, whether it's an article we're writing, and certainly the events, there are two key things that we really strive for, and that is transparency and authenticity. We really love it when entrepreneurs are willing to share all parts of their journey, not just the high water marks, but also the low water marks that have transformed their business. So it's incredibly moving when we get those kinds of folks to talk, whether it's on a podcast or in a presentation. It's my privilege to introduce Rod Brown, who's the CFO of MadeToOrder, a $25 million distributor out of California. Many of you know Rod. Many of you may not know his story. But Rod's been a mentor of mine for years. And I'll tell you the kinds of things that Rod does. First of all, Rod told me years ago, actually it wasn't that long ago, we were on a road trip to see Todd Potabom at QRG. And I was talking to him about burnout, right? In this industry, burnout's very easy. And one of the many life lessons Rod gave me was, Bobby, burnout is not an on and off switch, it's a rheostat. That'll change your entire perspective and keep you from making colossal mistakes. He shared wisdom like that all the time. But these are the kinds of things that Rod does. A couple of years ago, he decided he wanted to gather together some very influential people in one room and have a dinner, and he wanted to pay for the dinner. I extracted the cost of the dinner out of him, but it was at Gary Danko's restaurant in San Francisco. And so some of the folks that were there were David Nicholson of Polyconcept, Jonathan Isaacson with Gemline, CJ was there, Catherine was there, Joel Freet from Cutter and Buck was there, whom I missed, and Rod, and Paul Bellantone and Tim Andrews were there. Here's what's unique about Rod. What he told us to do, it's Jeffersonian style dinner. He had us each bring a photograph that was important to us and also a book that was important to us and share. We didn't talk about business. And here you got this fascinating people in one room. Some of them are running, these multi-million-dollar operations, and we didn't talk about business. Rod's whole purpose was for us just to share an experience together. $3,000 dinner later, that's the kind of stuff Rod Brown loves to do. And I was privileged to be a part of that, Rod, and I've never forgotten it. It's one of the most important moments I've ever shared in this business. And welcome Rod Brown to the stage.
I think the first off, I want to be clear that it's not that I'm his mentor, he's mine. And I ran across Bobby. Actually, my sister was doing some research for me, and she found his writings on the business. And one of the first times I ever met and talked with Bobby, had shared probably 4 hours over a cup of coffee, I think it was. And I said, "You're one of the guys that allows me to stay in the business. I love minds like that." So today, I want to talk a little bit about, I call it the tools of the trade, right? First off, a great thank you to the skucamp for inviting me. I think you should have your heads examined, but it's a great honor to be here. So the tools of the trade, and I got to find my clicker so that I know how to do this here. So today, there's 3 things that I really want to try and do here, and I want to inform a little bit. I'm hoping to be entertaining at some level. I think that's really important, is to be entertaining in anything you're presenting. So hopefully if you walk out of here and think it wasn't a total waste of time, then that was okay. And lastly, I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you to, when you get to be my age in life, and that you look back and you think you did some good things for yourself, your family, the environment, the world, and feel some amount of being contented, right? So I want to inspire you to do great things, but those great things are not always just economics, right? So that's the goal today, a little information, a little entertainment, and a little bit of inspiration. Who am I? Well, I'm a storyteller, right? I'm not a professional presenter, I'm far from it. I'm a family guy. My life partner, Barbara, is here with me right now. I asked her to marry me in 8 days after our first date, and we've been married for over 30 years now. So, I'm also sort of a short, fat, aging white guy who drinks too much. I mean, really, let's get real. And I'm not anything special. I'm just a guy that's been 40 years sort of journeyman. I love that term, journeyman, right? 40-year journeyman seller of promotional products, right? I'm an occasional indulger of books on poetry, and I love business books. So it may sound really different, but I have multiple lives. So part of that life is contemplative, and part of it is energetic, and God damn it, how do I get rich and famous, right? And sometimes the second one leaves me a little void, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more during the course of the few minutes we have here. So that's why I switched back to the books on poetry. I have an underlying belief, and this is going to go through the whole thing, underlying fundamental belief, an assumption that it's possible to overcome virtually any setback, any failure, any devastating life challenge through faith and work. And you can interpret faith any way you want, but faith and hard work are just fundamental things, and they will get you through. It may not be fast, it may not be easy, but it'll get you through if you believe you can do it. Two sort of avenues or themes that I want to go down today. One is sort of how I actually built my business in the early stages. The early stages for me is the first 10 years, second 10 years. And then some financial engineering tools that I learned to use to build and then rebuild my company after I sold it into a failed venture capital initiative and bought the wreckage back 24 months later. So that's sort of the second 20 years, right? Why the fans? Got the fans? Well, I thought it'd be hot in New Orleans, but it's freezing in this room. But the fans, I thought would be good for that. And it's also, I saw it once years ago in a Logan presentation, and I thought it was just plain fun to have the little fans. And at some point in time, if I got the fans and I'm asking questions and you got to grab a phone, you got to put your phone down, you got to grab the fan and put your phone down. I thought, okay, a little audience interaction. So that's why you got the fans. You have the yes, the no, and the really important one, is it happy hour yet? Okay, so it's happy hour yet. You get a raise when you just got to, like, I am bored to death. I'm going to get the hell out of here. It's happy hour. I'm out of here. Okay, so put that one up. Okay, so here's a few of the questions involving those fans first off, because it helps me set the tone and the pace a little bit, right? So how many of you are distributors? Green, up, 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 look all around, right? Okay, look around, all right? Okay, how many are suppliers? Okay, suppliers. And it's kind of fun, actually, if you're not a supplier, put the no up, and then look around at the colors, okay? It's just, all of you guys just kind of get a sense of who's here. Sometimes you don't even know who's in the audience, right? Okay, there you go. So a pretty good representation of suppliers here amongst us, but look like sort of 2/3 distributors, right? And who's something else? Okay? Something, what are you? Okay? Happy hour in the back. Okay? There you go. All right? So I only saw two. Did I miss another one? Was there somebody else here? There you go. There's another one over there. What do you do? Okay. How many of you are founders, principals, or owners of a company? Who's here? Okay, so that looks to me to be at least half of the audience, I would say, is a founder, a principal, or an owner of the company, okay? How many of you work for firms with more than 10 employees? Get them up there, okay? That's a lot. That's good, okay? Keep them up if you got more than 25, okay? And more than 50? There's a lot of big companies here then. Look around, guys. That's a lot of people to employ. Okay? Still a lot of people to employ. Okay? Okay, of those 50, how many are suppliers? Keep them up. Okay, so preponderance of them are on the supply side. Okay? How many of you have less than 5 years of full-time experience in the business? Less than. Be honest. Okay, good number. Good. And who's got more than 10? Boy, we got some veterans. Okay. Here's a fun one. Who's got a BA in a related field, say communications, marketing, business, or econ? Okay. How many of you absolutely focused on in school, when you got that expensive education, that you wanted to go sell promotional products? Is it happy hour yet? So that's really interesting because, okay, you said yes. Yeah. Okay, I think you're the only one.
I didn't go to school for it, though, but I sought a career in it.
But you sought a career in it at least. Okay, that's good. Conversely, how many ended up here by accident? Pretty much all of us. I know I did. Right? Okay, cool. And is there some other question that's really pressing that I should be asking? Anybody? Going once, going twice.
How many are going to stay till they retire?
Sorry, say it again.
How many will stay in this industry through retirement?
How many will stay through retirement? God, you're all lifers. Cool. All right. All right, so that just kind of helps me set the stage. I think it's a little fun for you guys to even see sort of who's in the room here today. So what's my journey? Well, I just started selling stuff. I mean, literally, when I was a kid, I would drag avocados, lemons, whatever it was, selling up and down the street. And I just sold stuff, right? And then my first real job, I was 14 years old, right? And the reason I have this is a steam press, because I ran a steam press after school 5 days a week, and then on Saturdays, I got $1.35 an hour. I was fired up to have that job. Did not look at it as child labor. I was fired up, man. I had a job, man. I made money. And I said, I'm going to buy a motorcycle, man. So that was my first motorcycle, 1969 Kawasaki. And I thought, how do I earn more? Well, I need to extend my range. I have to do something besides ride the bus to work. So that's my first, one of my first significant capital investments, a CapEx we call that, right? If I can increase my reach, and that concept goes all the way through to today, through the internet, through whoever it is, if I can increase my reach, I can do better, right? So I invested to extend my reach, traveled where the bus didn't go. That was my first big CapEx. Then here was my second one, because now I could be making $3 an hour. I started making more cash. At 18, I'm working 2 jobs. I left high school at 17 years old. I've never been without a job since I was 14, ever. Bought my 69 Camaro Z28, the only car I actually had an emotional attachment to. Although 2 weeks ago I took delivery of a new BMW in Germany at the factory, and that may now come back. So it was a bit of an indulgence, but it was also a saleable asset, because I ended up selling that fairly quickly because I had to finance my next company, which was a waterbed furniture manufacturing company. Right? I mean, hell, it was anything to make money, right? I'm now 21 years old, sold that Camaro. A 69 Z28 plus a mentor equaled a micro investment. I think I invested $7,000 in that first company. Bought a used forklift, bought a bunch of lumber, hawked everything I could find, and had 2 partners that owned 60% of the company on 40% of the company. They were absentee partners. Lesson number 1, partners sometimes have different vision than what you have. This was my only vision, the only way I made money. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to borrow everything, risk everything, just keep growing. They did not. I tried to buy them out. I lost. They took me out. So that left me pretty devastated, right? But again, I had I think it was $18,000 of cash. Took my girlfriend to Hawaii, had a great time, and then I started reading all these career crisis books, figuring out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to live. Along the way, when I was building that company, before I sold it, when we were just building it out, and I said we have to overcome almost anything, you have to have faith. So halfway through building that company, I'd invested my life savings in the thing. My other 2 partners didn't work there. I had maybe 15, 20 employees at the time. We were doing well. I had 0 money, nothing. Everything was invested in there. September 15th, 1976, my life caught fire. Now, I'm going to be serious for just a second here. I'm going to say the next slide, I'm going to give you a graphic warning, okay? Because it's a little intense, but it's really an important part of my life's lessons and my story about trying to inspire you guys. I won't stay a long time on the slide, but I want you to see what I mean by I caught fire, okay? So I did a double end over in a Volkswagen Bug. Took me 10 seconds to get clear of that car. This lives with me even now. I died and I came back. I was dead for a few minutes. I was at many different hospitals. Pain is an amazing thing. When you're just absolutely screaming, tortured in pain, it is just an incredible learning environment. And you become much more in touch with sort of what's your raison d'etre, you know, and what I want to do. And I loved being an entrepreneur. That was one of the things that I really liked. So what do? You got to recover, you rehab, and you rebuild. I went back, took the remnants of what I had from that company and rebuilt it, and that's when I sold, or actually tried to force my partners out later and then got bought out. But we did it once, do it again, work and faith. Believe that you can and will succeed. You can come back from anything. You can come back. It's not hard, it's not easy, but you can do it, okay? This is also where I began to get fascinated by numbers. I am a numbers guy. I'm not a great sales guy. I'm a B sales guy at best, right? But I just got fascinated by numbers. So here's a 1978 annual report from my furniture company. 1978. You know, it did maybe $1 million for the business, and I'm trying to look like a publicly traded company because it was fun, and I liked it, and I thought it was important. So that's where I kind of got started on that. Remember I said that partners sometimes have a different idea. I'm gone. I got bought out. I took the money. I thought, shit, what am I going to do? I went to Asia. I went to Asia in 1979. I bought these roll-top desks, bought a container load of these roll-top desks. I took them back home. I sold them to friends and family. It was a great adventure. Loved going to Asia, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong. It was fascinating. It broke even at best. God, now I'm running out of money. I need money. So back to my theme about reading books. Books are really important to me. I started reading this career crisis book. It said, live where you want to live. I moved to San Francisco. Because it was you know, when I was sort of a young hippie kid, man, San Francisco was awesome. Moved there. That's when I went to work for Jack Nadell. Because if you could fog a mirror, you could get a job. Okay? I barely qualified, but I got the job. So 100% commission. Nobody else is going to hire me, but at 100% commission, I don't think anybody will. Tough for you, starved to death there, made $4,800 my first year, $6,600. I couldn't sell my way out of a shoebox, but I always tell young people today, starvation is a tremendous motivator. You have to learn to sell to eat. You will learn, right? You learn, right? And it's not faking anybody out. It's not cramming it down their throat. It's making life connections with people. You got to grab their heart and their wallet at the same time. They got to trust you. Then they will trust you with their money and their business. I wanted to be the president. 5 years later, I was making $100,000. Life was good. When you go from making $6,600 to 3 years later, you're making $100,000. Oh man, this is great. I want to be the president of the company. Not going to happen. Got passed over vice president because I'm a loser, high school dropout. I've just been working my whole life. I didn't know what I was doing. They hired a guy with a bachelor's degree and from Cal and you know, whatever. I'm out of here. I'm gone. I knew now that I could not trust my life to be, you know, in somebody else's hands. And Bobby, I don't see a timer anywhere, so I'm a little nervous about that, so sometime we get there. So I took an interim step. I went to another company for 2 years, but I told them I'm leaving in 2 years to be your competitor. If you know that going in, I'd love to come open an office for you, but I have to have P&L responsibility. I got to understand what it takes to run an office because I'm going to leave and be your competitor. Do you really want to do this? I'll work really hard for you for 2 years. I'll get that office going. I won't take anybody with me, but I will leave and be your competitor. Is that okay? A lot of screaming, a lot of fighting, and yes, it was. I did it. Be upfront, be transparent. Next phase. Here I am, January 1989. Had a coffee pot and talk radio because I didn't want anybody on the phone to think that I'm in an empty office. So I had talk radio going in the background, right? Because it's me, man. It's me. This was really hard. Luckily, in July of '88, my life partner, Barbara, consented to marry me, foolish woman that she was, and she made our house payments for us. Got up, you know, dawn, rode the train in the city, had a job, made the house payments for us so that I could go take this chance. More books, pivotal books. Books is a theme throughout everything, right? Read on your business, right? This was an amazing book. I remember reading it with Barb on the beach, just this little like 100-page, really simple little thing, no great concepts. Loved it. It was pivotal in my life, growing a business, right? 11 years, we built the firm to $13 million. How? Mostly through personal sales. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Learning from the tech startups. After all, it was California. The dot-com boom, you know, was beginning to go on. I recruited others. I used stock options, again, to touch on that a little bit. I used transparency to tell the truth. Be open and honest and tell the truth, right? And you'll get long-term relationships. And those that don't value that will leave, and that's good. Get rid of it. Be done with it now, okay? So the way that I built my personal business, that $13 million run there really was me selling, because I had to be the number one sales guy for the longest time, is I really focused on education and learning about my customers. Again, going back, I was a B sales guy. So I learned to look at IPOs, initial public offerings, because it was big in my area. I know that a lot of you are not necessarily from, big, humongous markets, right? But they're going on all over the place, at least in Boston, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco. They are going on. And I would go to the SEC's Edgar database, and I would look up that company. I'd pull their 10K, their 10Q, their annual reports, and in just a few minutes, I would read up on their revenue, the product, their employee count, what's their go-to-market strategy, who their key competitors are. I would generally get their artwork. I'd get key executive contacts and their biographies, right? Try getting that from a cold call. There's no way, right? But in just a few minutes of work, I can get that, right? Now, the other advantage one is big new money comes in an initial public offering. A company has $50, $100 million that they need to spend right now. Why'd they get that money? Because they need that money to go to market. They got to scale. They got to get big fast. I can help them get big fast. I can help them make their brand really, really big. I can help them recruit. I am key to that money. Give me some of that money. They do not have humongous, entrenched, bureaucratic purchasing departments. They're frantic. Nobody's been working there for more than 9, 10 months, a year. Shit, let's go. You can get it done. I haven't got time. Make it happen. So this was how I really built a lot of my early business. I don't want to say that's the only way, but the concept of reading press releases, set alerts, create a farm of maybe 100 accounts that you're really following all the time, and click on them, get their press release, get their stories, be in touch with them, what's happening, read up on them all the time. Particularly, I love the press release sections on websites, because whatever they're bragging about is the thing you want to be trying to promote, okay? I subscribe to sort of upcoming IPOs, so I'm always watching. Here's one. Here's Capital Bank Corp. Happens to be, they're raising $37 million, okay? Capital Bank Corp. So I go pull their S1 filing, what's called an S1 filing off the SEC. I know you can't read this, but it talks about use of the proceeds, and it talks about how they're into construction lending, and they hired this new person to run their construction lending operation, and how much that they're doing there, and that's really their focus. So now, guess what? I can come up with all kinds of construction, sort of related promotional products, build a sort of presentation around them. I even have the contact name of who to go after with that presentation. No, they're just getting $37 million in. They really want to grow that business and the construction business. I got this whole program done. That helped me because, again, I'm not a charismatic salesman. Remember, I'm a short, fat, Asian white guy who drinks too much, okay? So, but with knowledge and understanding a little bit, I could take 10 or 15 minutes of reading and make it sound like I'd done a thesis on their company. I might know more about the company than half the people that work there. Mulesoft, here's another one that's really interesting. This was just a recent one. This was in San Francisco. I was reading a blog post. Somebody said Mulesoft's a hot company. I went and pulled their S1. I thought, and they went public, and I bought 1,000 shares of Mulesoft, right? I'm going to come back to that in a second here. But here's an overview of Mulesoft. It tells me they got 549 people, how they go to market, what they do. They give me some of the names of their products in here. I can build a presentation around that. And then I can even build a little Excel distribution sheet that says 547. If I drop ship to each of those, 50 apiece, here's how many that is. Here's how much that whole program costs. We'll handle the drop ships to all your salespeople. Here's the cover letter that's going to go with the distribution of those 50 items that we're going to send to your salespeople. Sell the distribution list along with the stuff. Because if you sell 1 million pens to Mulesoft and they have no idea what to get at, and they're hoarding them, they're protecting them, and they don't get them out in the field, they're just going to run dry, we wasted their money. But if I say, hey, just give me the 571 address, I'll drop ship them all. Here's the cover letter that goes with it. Here's the distribution. Here's the time on it. It's only 50 per head. Well, shit, all of a sudden, I do the math. 500 times 50 is a bunch, right? So sell the distribution, sell into whatever their product story is. So this is the way that I get more great intel, right? Here it is. This is how many people they had engaged in sales and marketing, right? So the point is I can just go through those things really quickly and find information, right? So I go back to this, consider investing in your clients. So way back, this is maybe, decades ago when I'm sort of being the sales guy, and I had that year I made $100,000. I started buying 100 shares in any of the companies that were publicly traded that I was selling. Why? Because I would align my interests with my clients in a funny sort of way. I have owned $3,000 worth of stock, $2,000 worth of stock, $1,000 worth of stock in them. They promoted to me as a shareholder. I got lots of information, lots of alerts would come in as a shareholder, and I made sure that my client knew I was a shareholder in their company. They don't know how much I own, but my interests are aligned with yours, right? I'm a shareholder in the company as well as a vendor, right? Some of those companies were Oracle and Sun Microsystems and Cisco Systems and a number of different things, right? You know, it's done well for me. So let's put it that way. It's been good, okay? Just by buying a little bit in my customers, right? I didn't buy it because I did some great financial analytics. They were my customer. It smelled right. It sniffed right. I thought they were looked like a good client. Buy it, okay? Mulesoft sold 2 months after I bought those 1,000 shares for double the workday. So that was kind of pretty cool, $20,000 payday real quick. Buy and read on your career. Buy and read on your career and buy more. Buy 250 copies. Okay, so I brought this with you because this book, this is probably 25 years ago now. I bought 250 copies of this book, 50 copies at a time. Set up an account with Ingram so I could buy them wholesale. Read through it with a highlighter and a pen and Post-it notes and marked up the pages and the really important parts on here that talked about service, that talked about, you know, quality, okay, things like that, right? Marked up those pages, put Post-it notes in there, wrote little notes in them, wrote notes in the margins. After I did the first 5 or 6, I paid my admin to do the rest of them, okay? Do them all, wrap them up, mailed them out to my customers and my prospects, 50 at a time, okay? Who throws a book away? They may not read it, but it's going to sit in their office. It's going to be a doorstop, if need be, for a long time. I have bought so many books. Ronnie Wright, where are you? Buy tip-in pages, write a little story on the tip-in page, buy business books, mark them up, send them to your clients. It's one of the best promotional products you can ever make, right? It's an intellectual product. You're trying to be this kind of person for that client. That client will not throw that away. Now, you may not still get to see him, you may not get through the door, but you sure increase your chances of setting up a relationship with them, right? If you're not reading on your career, I can't tell you what a loser you are, frankly, okay? You've got to read on your career, okay? Anybody, in any profession, you have to get CEUs. You've got to get credits. Well, and Malcolm Gladwell, one of my favorite, most current writers, right, he talks about 10,000 hours, right? You got to do 10,000 hours to be an expert in your field, right? Well, read on your business, right? I just grab this slug of them, man. I look at the title sometimes, and I buy them, and I'll read 15 pages of it, and I think, I'm not that interested. Next. Other ones, I'll just go for it, right? So I digress momentarily. I'm walking around here, right before I get on. And again, Bobby, I'm not sure about timing, so help me out if you can. Am I halfway? More than. Okay. Walking around, and I see this book sitting on somebody's desk here. Oh, man. I love that, man. You're bringing a business book to a conference. Okay, I'm fired up. I think, who is this, man? Come on up here. Grab this book for me, will you? Come here. I love this, okay? I would say all of you, if you're not reading on it, you're crazy. You don't have to read every page, every letter, right? Skim it, find the parts that are important. There's $20 in there as a reward, man. Thank you for doing that. That's great. Okay? And the $20 is that you will make more money, right? Invest time and money, read. Bobby, how about that on books, huh? Bobby and I are always like, what are you reading? You know? Okay, the dot-com gold rush. So I had a good company, it's going great, and I think, oh man, I'm going to get left behind. I'm a short, fat, white guy who drinks too much. I didn't go to college. I'm a loser, right? All these VC guys, they're brilliant. These IBM guys, they're fucking hot. They come to me, they say, we want to buy your company. We're going to wire it up. We're going to take the world by storm. It's going to be awesome. January 2nd of 2000, Harwood Holdings, Inc. sells. Here's the deal book, like 400 pages, cost $40,000. I got them to pay the $40,000 in legal fees, though. So Harwood Holdings is valued at $5 million plus. I'm going to be rich. I'm looking at yachts. I think, oh, man, life is just great. It's awesome. They are really smart. Here, I'm going to drop out. Okay, the deal structure really matters. Let's touch a little bit on deal structure, right? So there's $1 million payday to pay off my bank loans. There's a AAA. You get what's called a AAA distribution from an S corp, and I don't have time to go into all the details of it, right? But you can take it as long as it's an ordinary course of business. You can take it tax-free. Another $1 million subject to cap gains. Tax was paid in cash. $2 million in a Series D preferred stock. I'm going to tell you a little more about that later. I had created an incentive stock option plan for my key employees, so $265,000 got distributed to them, and I got $500K in new ISOs, incentive stock options, in the new company with an accelerated vesting under what's called an 83B election. Now, I know a lot of this is kind of Greek to you. There is a glossary that I sent to Bobby a couple weeks ago that we had hoped to get in your hands in advance. For some reason, it didn't get to you, but we have it. We'll send it out to you later on so you can look at some of the terms here, and I'll touch base on them. Well, what happened? I sold in January 2nd of 2000. What happened by April of 2000? The whole thing blew up. Everything just fell apart, okay? So in 4 months, I went from going to buy a yacht and I'm going to be rich to what? The wheels came off, right? It was unbelievable, right? So 20 months, I wrote, let's see if I think I maybe got this wrong. Let's go here. Oh, it got worse. I got slides out of order. It got worse, right? 9/11 happened, okay? I lost my tenant in my building, which was my last remaining really big asset. My tenant's paying me $30,000 a month. They're going broke, the company I'd sold to. Oh, and my sister gets cancer. 9/11 occurs. I am really deeply lost. All right, I'm going to go back here now to this. So in 20 months, I wrote to the chairman of the VC firm. I said, with less than stellar updates and opinion on where we were going, this got me fired. Credit Suisse was gone, our investment bankers, the S1 was gone, the market's dried up, almost $60 million went down the drain. My $2 million in preferred was now worthless. My $500K in options were now worthless. In the 83B election in the IRS came to me and said, you owe me $165,000 in taxes on $500K in options that I never got, that were worthless. IRS is not forgiving on that. They wanted their $165K anyway. Pay me, okay? Money you never got, you pay $165,000 in taxes. Work and faith. You have got to believe, right? You've got to believe, right? Believe in the hard work, face your demons, tell the truth. So it just went to hell in a handbasket, but I had a family that really loved me. I had more than when I started. In April of 2002, I'm hired back as the CEO. They fired the CEO that fired me. They hired me to come back to try and fix the mess. It was a mess. We had, hundreds of employees we didn't need. We're losing $1 million a month, but it was a sweet day. It was great attribution. They paid my IRS debt, which was fantastic, and I got a nice employment agreement. So I reached out and bought and merged with another company that had got public to try and bolt 2 totaled cars together to try and create one that might run. And in October of 2003, I went to the board meeting, made the other guy the president of the company. I took my severance package and I left. Okay, my job was done, bolted them together, got a new series, new $4 million round financed. The axe story, I bought 2 axes on the way to the board meeting in October 2003, put little labels on them, Seiko label printer, said learn how to use this, you got to cut more costs, you got to survive the nuclear winter because we're about to go to war with Iraq, and the company had shrunk from maybe $80 million in revenue down to like $25 million in revenue and was going down. You got to cut more, you got to stay alive. Okay. I'm really fighting disillusionment and loss again, but I learned some really cool stuff, some great tools and ideas, mostly because I lost so much money. The learning was really expensive, but at least I learned from it. And I said, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to work to live, not live to work. I bought a house on an island, I bought a fishing boat, and I dedicated myself to becoming super dad. I had neglected my sons for years when they were very young because I was just chasing the brass ring. All I could focus on was getting rich and famous. It left me really with a void and disillusioned, and all these smart guys are going to do great, and they burned through $60 million of pension money and everything else, and I thought, I'm out of here, man. I got to reset. Okay, read and rebuild. So I was out. The company was continuing to fail. They came to me in March of 2003. Said, hey, we're just so done with this. We don't want anything to do with it. You want to buy it back? I said, no. Said, give me a couple hours, check with some of my people. I said, let me rethink this. Let me retool this. I got an idea. If you guys want to go with me, we'll go with me. So 30 days. No, wait, you only got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to do this. So Markets, war, terror, management, timing all contributed to failure. The breakup is what we had left, so we broke it into multiple pieces. I took back essentially what had been the DNA of what I'd sold them 26 months earlier, right? And remember I said there's going to be these huge challenges and setbacks. I lost a fortune. I mean, I went from rich to, owing the IRS a bunch of money in a short period of time. But you can overcome those losses, you come back. So connected with another VC-funded, now public company, like I said, bolted them together. No longer my company, I'm just a hired gun. We did the Series F was a massive down round. I'm hoping you guys know what a down round is, but it's when you wipe out basically everything that came before you. I'm going to slide over this because it gets a little complicated. In the new company, then I said, we're going to have 10 shareholders. It's a sales force. I made all the sales force owners of the company. Write me a check for $25,000. If you haven't got it all now, we'll finance it over the next 120 days or something. But you got to write me a check for $25,000, right? And if you haven't got it all, even in 120, we'll go longer. But you've got to be vested in the company, right? So then we had $5 million in run rate that we were buying back from the failed initiative. I lent the company $1 million from my Harwood Capital, my own money, because we couldn't borrow from the bank. There was no borrowing at that point. So I lent the money to the LBO under securitized lending agreement that allowed me board control. That gave me the security, because I only own 30% of the company now. 70% is now owned by these other shareholders, the sales force. So essentially, it's like owning a home. If they build the company, they do really well with it, the value goes up, they get all that value. If they fuck it up, right, I'm foreclosing. I'm taking it back. That's what my securitized lending does. Then you get wiped out. I take everything. But if you do really well, you get all the upside. So we're trying to align everybody's interest, right? So those are the loan covenants. I also took what's called warrant coverage on that lending. The warrant coverage gave me a right. It's a contract to be able to buy more shares in the company on a change in control. So that if somehow the company got sold out from underneath me, I could tender the warrants and take back a majority interest in the company at an incredibly preferential price point. The trade name was MadeToOrder, both good and bad, because we had like 300 or 250 employees at the time we were failing as a .com, and all those people knew we were failing, so the guys there overnight are surfing all the porno websites and doing all kinds of stuff. And I mean, when we bought the name back, we were getting 80, 90,000 of weird emails a day coming in from all over the place. So it was great because our clients knew the name. It was also not so great because every porn site in the country knew our name too, it seemed like, and anyway. Took a while to figure it all out. We closed the asset sale April 15th, and we rebuilt it. I tried to create what I call velvet handcuffs, with it's called an RSPA, a restricted stock purchase agreement. What that means is when I sold them the stock, they're all like, ha, 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 how much do I own? Ha, ha, ha. Do I get 10% of the company? Do I get 12% of the company? And nobody reads, right? You got to read, because the stock purchase agreement is a 10-page or 5-page document. Says that the company maintains the right but not the obligation to repurchase those shares at any time you leave the company for any reason. You get fired, you quit. I buy your stock back for what you paid for it. Okay? Not the market value, not the book value. It's not open to any interpretation. What you paid for it, the company buys it back. It's redistributed then to the people that are staying behind, because everything was about the integrity of the unit. How do we create glue to the unit, velvet handcuffs? Handcuff them, they got great upside potential, huge upside. You own the company. Don't screw it up, don't leave, or you don't get the benefit. Even our 401k matching program, which we did 2-for-1 match to the 401k, had a 6-year vesting cycle on it. So if you left prematurely, you left that money to the other investors in the 401k program. Liquidity goes to the restricted stock purchase agreement, because a lot of times shareholders desperate for money. He goes, hey, I got $200,000 worth of stock in the company. I need to leave. Give me $200,000. I got to have some money. No, it's illiquid, right? It's like a gold brick in the desert, right? You got this gold bullion, you got a bucket of water. You're 100 miles from water. Which one is worth more? Liquidity is a really important concept, even in running your own company. If I had more time, I'd go into that. But liquidity is, avoiding margin calls is really, really important, okay? Let's keep going here. C corporation pros and cons. We happen to be a C corp because that allowed me multiple classes of stock, allowed me to have the warrant coverage. I know that some of this may pass over your heads, but it's sort of interesting. And if you ever run across any of this, pick up the phone and call me. I'm happy to talk to you more about it. The pass-through on an S corp is great if you're a sole proprietorship. Maybe if you're a partnership. I had 10 shareholders. I did not have been dealing with everybody's tax issues. It allowed us to build greater retained earnings at a lower corporate tax rate. But it is bad if you're trying to sell the company. I did not want to sell the company. I had sold the company once. It did not work out so well. Okay, let's hang on to the company. Let's try and make a company that will built to last. Book value, again, I think we touched on, is indisputable, right? Assets minus liabilities. Here's your book value. It's not open for interpretation. Market value, anything else is subject to conjecture. Be very, very hard. If you're ever doing buy-sell agreements with each other, you're trying to do anything other than book value is open to interpretation and subject to litigation. So be careful of that. And then also always pay attention to the quality of the assets on your balance sheet. The quality of assets really goes to the fact that some people carry like lots of goodwill, you know, trademarks and stuff worth millions of dollars. It's all worth crap. It's nothing, right? It's really what really is your cash, your AR, your inventory, your work in process, minus your AP or other accrued items. And always, if you don't know what a current ratio is, a quick ratio is, believe me, your bank does. If you ever want to borrow money, you better know what that is. And I would say that 2 to 1 is an ideal. 1.5 is even, 1 is probably okay. But current ratio, quick ratio, probably, if you learn no other ratio analysis, learn that one on your balance sheet. Make sure you're aware of that. Because again, if you're going to borrow money, your bank is sure going to want to know that. So again, we talked a little bit about the quality of assets and the book value. Equity tools, I touched on a little bit. This is sort of how I captured the sales force and how we create the velvet handcuffs is by giving them a huge amount of equity in the company, but they can't screw it up, and it's illiquid, okay? The only way they get it is get us to the finish line. Get us to where a majority of change in control, either we sell the company outright or everybody, the majority of the shareholders agree that there's a transaction that we want to do, then you can monetize your investment. So at that velvet handcuffs, right? The warrant coverage, talked a little bit, incentives, ISOs are incentive stock options, right? They generally is a contract you make with your employees, and this is a great tool for maybe some of you that are really growing businesses, you want to recruit somebody fabulous. Give them incentive stock options. It's not an actual share in the company in equity. It's a contract that they have a right to buy these shares at a fixed price at some point in time in the future if you do have a change of control, if you do sell the company. And if they leave, they either have to exercise them, which nobody would in a privately held, closely held company, or they expire. And so then they cost you nothing. So you can use these tools to build your company, and they have real value, but they don't actually cost cash money. Okay? Warrants are a little different than ISOs. Warrants can go to other people besides employees. ISOs have to go to employees, right? And then I want to touch a little bit about convertible debt. When I said I lent money to the company to do the LBO, I lent it as both securitized lending and convertible debt. I could convert that debt to stock at a predetermined stock price. Tesla's a great example right now. Tesla has a couple of $1 billion worth of notes, bonds that are due in the next year or so. It's one of the reasons that the stock's so volatile, because some of those bonds have strike price, convertible debt at like $420 a share, $390 a share, $320 a share. Well, right now the stock's trading at below $300 a share, or was until I think this morning. And so they would not convert to equity. They're going to convert to cash. That's going to create tremendous cash drains on the company, right? So convertible debt is kind of an interesting tool. So again, if you're ever in a situation where you're buying or selling a company or looking at a company, be aware of all these things. I was not. I sold the company. I had no idea about any of this stuff, and I lost a lot of money. I paid my lawyers to go back and say, what just happened? And that's where I learned a lot of this stuff. As Mary said, the lessons were expensive. They were doubly expensive because I paid them then to teach me why I lost so much money. Along the way now in the new company, I bought another company, the Flex Deal. I acquired a small San Diego company based distributor with some $2 million in revenue. They had good people. One partner had other ideas. Remember I said sometimes partners have other ideas? Get rid of the other partner, right? Buy the company is mostly a stock purchase. I traded my stock for their stock, and I acquired their debt. So it didn't really cost me much in the way of cash immediately at closing, but it cost me cash over the next 4 or 5 months to pay off their debts, okay? And in 2013, I took over another failing company. This one was in much worse shape. This was really in horrendous shape. They were 2 days away from not making payroll, and the IRS would have probably padlocked the door. So I didn't even want to do an asset purchase on that, never mind a stock purchase, so we took an assignment of their IPs. Everybody know what IP is? Anybody that does not know what IP is, hold a note, sign up. Anybody? Anybody. Everybody knows what IP is? No. Anybody else? God, you're a good group. Okay. So for those that don't know, anyways, intellectual property. So we took an assignment of their IP. Intellectual property can be their phone numbers, their business addresses, their email address, their URL. That's all IP. So we took an assignment of their IP, nothing else. We bought nothing else from them because we wanted to distance ourselves from how bad they were, wired the money in to make the payroll, made all their employees new. They were all fired, and we made them a new employee the next day. And so then they were fresh. We started clean. It was about a $6 million revenue stream. We acquired them for the IP, both debt assumption and equity. So we gave some equity to the owner because he had to get something out of the deal, so we gave him equity in the owner, which he had to deliver the revenue over the next 2 years to get. He did not get the equity. He's gone. We kept half of the revenue. Today, I call this my Game of Thrones picture, right? So we have these banquets, right, with the sales force, and sometimes we're honoring some of our great people. I just love this picture. So here's our company today at one of our banquets. We're about $25 million in revenue, some 40 headcount, about 35 employees, and a few independent contractors. We're always profitable. We have zero debt. We are no longer growing. We're actually shrinking. I'm down from 30 million. The company needs new management because it's led by a short, fat, aging white guy who's not that fired up about making fortune anymore. And so we've now executed an ESOP. I'm going to sell the stock, selling the entire company to all of the employees. It's a long, involved transaction. It's very risky. It's probably not the greatest payoff, but it has great tax benefits to me, and it allows the companies to keep the employees to keep their jobs and work for themselves and try and transfer the vision of the American dream to them. So they will now own the company, and if it works right, I guessed well over the next 8 years, I do well. If I didn't, I lose a bunch of money. But it doesn't. I don't want to say it doesn't matter. That's way too cavalier. It does matter. But I won't miss a meal. It'll be okay. And with faith and hard work, you can always come back. So with that, in closing, I said I just don't want to pretend to be anything more than I am. I'm a two-bit hustler since I was, really from my red wagon going up and down the street. Will you buy some avocados, please? And I'm a hard-working believer in the American dream, that growing a business book, right? I think this is one of the few. I've visited more than 30 countries in the world now. I love to travel. I really believe in the American dream, and I think that this industry is unique in that it's such a small micro-cap business that really anybody with $50 can print some business cards and go and get an email address, and you can go create a company. Now, and it's all up to you. I think that's actually pretty cool, right? And there are some other industries, but this is the only one I really know with my whole life. So I think that's good. So that's it. And I believe that value is measured for what I produce, right? What I can create or dream up, no matter how crazy the idea is. If it's waterbeds, it's selling avocados, I don't care. If I can deliver value, I am valued on that. And that, I like that. I'm not valued for who I am because I'm a short, fat, aging white guy who drinks too much, right? That's not very valuable. But if I can make customers, if I can give them value, that's cool. I like that. That's what I want. So I'm a believer in the American dream, and I said I don't possess any of the skills, intellect, education, breeding, or funds to any of these great, massive things that people do. I could just sort of go sell coffee mugs, And so that was okay, and I survived a number of setbacks. So in closing, I'm blessed with family and good fortune to be able to share a little of me and some modest funds to those in the world less fortunate. And which is very often, and when I temporarily forget the above, it's shut the F up, right? So, and I can do this a lot. I can really, I don't run $1 billion hedge fund, and Bobby's got style, and Catherine's really smart, and I sell coffee mugs. Shut the F up. Go to Mexico. So I've been 11 times in Mexico, 2 times to Africa on mission trips. I go build homes in the slums of Mexico, take 250 high school kids down with me, 35 adult leaders. We build these homes in a week. It's really cool. And one of the things I'll say about that is I take a little Sharpie at the end of the week along with, and when I say a home, it's a shed, really. It's a glorified shed. No plumbing, no electricity. It's, 4 walls, roof, 2 windows, and a door. And I write in there, I said, Rod Brown helped build this house with love in 2018, right? Because there's nothing that I can really do in my life I build with my hands that will last longer than I'm alive, except in Mexico. And that's really cool. Think that family's life, they'll be living there, or another family will be in that house that I helped build longer than I'm alive. So that's cool. I took that experience on those mission trips there, went to Africa. I went to Malawi, Africa. I have a little orphanage in Malawi, Africa. There's a picture of that right here. And I'm going to play a little quick video, Bobby, if you would, from that. Press click. sound down. So we'll let the video run. I'll take the sound down. I just wanted to hear a little bit of the singing and the voices, right? 25% of the kids in this orphanage is a blind school and orphanage there. It's about maybe 70 kids or something all in. About 25% of them are albinos. The sun eats them alive, right? Just this sub-equatorial Africa, it's absolutely brutal. They're blind, right? They're an albino. They're in sub-equatorial Africa. And the real killer here is that because of the witch doctor mentality, particularly out in the rural areas and even on the black market in the big cities, that they are bought and sold because if they are butchered and the bones are ground up or their blood is separated and you drink the blood of an albino, you make a potion out of their bones, then you will be more virile, you'll live longer, your wives will be happier. You know, it's just like sort of rhino horns, only these are human beings, you know. And, shit, sorry guys, it is absolutely intense. So when you start feeling like, I don't run $1 billion company, well, you can be a blind albino orphan and be hunted in Africa. Shut the fuck up. You know? Okay? So I'm putting my fifth trip to Africa together. And by the way, for about $5,000 a year, I can feed the entire school. I mean, all they get is cornmeal mush, and if we're really lucky, we show up with rice and beans sometimes, and they get all excited about that. But I told this story to Marty Lott at Sanmar one time, and I said, hey, Marty, you know, all they ever get is like hand-me-down donations. I take all my leftover T-shirts and stuff over there. I said, hey, man, is there, you know, I'll buy, you know, you got some closeouts or some cheap stuff. Who's from Sanmar? There's somebody from Sanmar here. Where are you? Somebody. Stand up. Sanmar. Stand up. Okay? This is a company with unbelievable heart. Unbelievable heart, okay? So I said, Marty, you know, maybe I could buy some of your like, you know, your rejects or something, but I want to buy kids' sizes because all he gets adult sizes. You see these 10-year-old, 12-year-old kids in these adult shirts hanging down to their knees. I want kids' sizes. I want, you know. And so he sent me 4 of these huge OGO rolling bags, you know, with the bags, all these shirts for the kids and stuff. And that's why I got the little signs there. And Reciprocity Road is a group that I'm a member of. And okay, so we're all into commerce. Believe me, we're all into commerce. We want rebates. We want all kinds of stuff, right? Okay, we peel you for everything we can get, but we also have heart. And so part of Reciprocity Road's mission is to make the world a little better along the way too. So I took these little things. I took a picture while we were delivering all the shirts. And here the kids are dressed up in their new shirts. And this spokesman stands up. He's got my little made-to-order hat on him. The hat's because I got to keep the sun off their faces as much as I can, right? Although we cannot see, we understand we look beautiful, right? And so accolades to Sanmar for supporting that effort. And then my last thing is that, again, the STFU, man, is that I'm a rich man, right? This is my family. Questions? Anybody? Here we go.
Rod, hang on. We might have some questions. Hang on.
Yeah, man.
Any questions? Anything at all?
Yeah.
Actually got a question, but this morning on the BBC, they ran a news story about 6 albino women climbing Kilimanjaro for awareness.
Where was that story?
It was on the BBC.
Oh, yeah.
So, 6 different countries around Africa.
Yeah.
Women who joined together to do the climb. One of the women has no arms because they were
They're hacked off, yeah. A lot of the kids at the orphanage have, you know, they're missing their arms or legs, whatever, they got hacked off. But it was a seminal moment for me when that happened, and I think my first trip was there 8 or 9, 10 years ago, maybe, something like that. Anyway, and I've taken both my sons with me because I want them to smell and see and hear that it's not all about the newest BMW in high school or the greatest iPhone or something, you know. I want them to have a little bit of that too. But interesting. Any other sort of questions? Yeah.
I just want to say thank you. I think I go to a lot of these shows, and I think we all come here to take something back to our team to help us grow our business and make our clients' lives easier. But this is the first time in 15 years I've been emotionally impacted by a speaker, and that's rare and much needed. And kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Well, it goes to the point. I think I want to deliver value. I want to deliver good information to you. Now, some of this information may not be at your scope of your business today, but it might be, because I think that most of you will go create much more radically successful companies than I have. I built my second company after the LBO. I built around a change in my life. I decided I'm not really going to sacrifice everything to commerce, sacrifice a lot. And believe me, I want to be rich. I want to have a lot of money. But I also wrote into my employment agreement with my own company, I'm taking 14 weeks off a year. And I bought a house on an island, and there's no TV, and there's no video games. My sons are running chainsaws at 12 years old, and we're building forts and making driftwood furniture and shit, right? My sons can hunt and fish and navigate by the stars. They are amazing men, right? And I spent every summer with them for the last 15 years. But I'm also a dickhead loser then, because I didn't really grow to be a $150, $500 billion company. I'm a $25 million coffee mug company, So.
Where'd you get the idea to sell your company back to your employees?
What gave me the idea to do that? I am kind of this believer in the American dream, right? And being in business for yourself and pushing yourself. And so I was always concerned if we sold the company, that it would be pretty much decimated. They would keep the top producers, all the back office would be gone. Most of them, wouldn't be able to make the money. And some of them worked for me for Lindy, maybe 30 years now, Barb, I think been with us for 30 years, Kathleen for 22, 23. They would not get a job as good as they have right now, right? Now, they may lose that in the ESOP, and I'm gone. But it will be on them. It won't be on somebody else. So my concept was to do it. Now, there are some really significant tax advantages. So, there are some esoteric things to an ESOP. Makes it a little risky, but it also can be very tax leveraged, so that you can actually sell for less top line, net more in an ESOP. But it's a very unusual transaction, and it's very complex. Okay. Question? Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you think that's a significant differentiator? You walk into a company understanding what the company did, not what you wanted to sell them?
See, I'm a little bit of a wonk, right? I said I was never that charismatic, sort of tall, good-looking sales guy who could just get them to eat out of my hand, right? I have to create value. So to me I thought if I could tell about, how you're going to market, who your competitors are, what's your sort of average sale? Are you selling capital goods at $500,000 a sale? Are you selling insulin kits at, $25. I don't know, right? I need to know a little bit about that in order to build a cohesive idea for promotional campaign for you, right? That was sort of my concept, right? That if I knew a little bit about the company or researched the company, I might earn the right to be their trusted partner and look at the lifetime value of that relationship, not the deal, not the transaction, right? So if I send them books, if I write on them, if I research them, I just felt like that would help me be more comfortable and help them trust me for a lifetime relationship. Okay? But I go back to, I know a lot of you, maybe not necessarily in huge markets with lots of IPOs and stuff going on. You don't have to only be IPOs. Just go on company's website and start, make a list of your farm. You got 100 people on your farm, right? And start clicking on their press releases. Look at their press releases. Whatever they're bragging about, you want to know about, because that's what they want to promote.
Rod, I think we have time for one more question. Do we have a Debbie? Right over here.
I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about mentorship in terms of your own experience and your journey, the people that were mentors to you, and what you found of most value from them, and how you worked with them.
Okay, so we're running low on time. Really quickly, Bobby, right? No question, because Bobby writes and reads. Okay, so I don't do either one as well as he does. So that's one of my. Another one was a guy named Fran Ford. My very dear friend Fran Ford died this year. 39 years, one of my best friends in the business. From his funeral, by the way, I called the BMW dealership and ordered that car that I'm going to have the next love affair with. I said, I'm sending you a link. I want pick that car up at the factory in Germany in 3 months, man. Because when Fran died, that was really the time. I said, I'm done with my career. It's time for me to wrap it up now. During the ESOP, I'm going to buy a supercar. And at 65 years old, it's time for me to move on, because I lost 3 good friends this year. But Fran was a tremendous mentor for me for a long time. And he helped teach me how to sell and how to just overcome some of my wonkiness, if you would, and be okay with that, So I would say Fran was it. Even my sister Claudia, who I followed all through school, was a math whiz and genius, and I was a loser, but she's always been a loving, kind older sister, so she's been a good mentor to me and recommended a lot of great books, and she found Bobby for me too, so that was kind of cool.
Another hand for Rod.
Thanks, buddy.